Breaking news out of the Chicago Cubs. They have traded Christopher Morel, Hunter Bigge, pitching prospect Ty Johnson for Tampa Bay Rays third baseman Isaac Paredes in a deal that I did not see coming. I thought there would be no way the Cubs would trade Christopher Morel at his absolute lowest value. There's so much to unpack here. This is just going to be a very brief 10 to 15 minute recap, and then Matt and I will get to it all tonight when we do our regular trade. Let's start with the main pieces of the deal. These are two players that are the exact opposite of each other. One player, Christopher Morel, is underlying stats. The numbers aren't great, but he projects out the expected batting average, the expected slug, all these things. But he is, not producing. Whereas Isaac Paredes is a guy that has been producing, but when you look under the hood, his expected numbers aren't great. So it's a very fascinating trade and one that I, did not see coming. I'll start with this. I want to read this tweet from Jeff Passan, because I think a lot of people are going to jump into the Cubs now. Oh, well, the Cubs are buyers. I'm not sure that's the case just yet. Here's the quote from Passan in the tweet. Just because the Cubs are considering moving players from this current roster doesn't mean they're selling. Just as because they acquired Isaac Paredes doesn't mean they're buying. Modern baseball is a game about opportunity. The furthest thing from a binary. It is a fundamental tenet to understand how teams operate and what motivates them. There can be buyers and sellers, yes, but ultimately teams view themselves as value gatherers. And the only question is whether they're gathering that value for today or down the road. And I think Jed really believes that this is going to help them. Isaac Paredes is under control through 2027, basically the same as Christopher Morel. And I think this is Jed Hoyer getting a jump start on trying to really focus more on production as opposed to expected production, and to fill a hole for next year. And unfortunately, and I hate to say this, filling a hole at a cost that doesn't cost a lot, because they're very aware of their cost and their situation. I'm not a huge fan having to give up Hunter Bigge in this deal, because you just know in a couple of years he will be dominating with the Tampa Bay Rays. You just know that. But here's Isaac Paredes' numbers this year. He's hitting .247, a very solid on base, a .355, a nice slug of .438, and an OPS of .793. He's been worth 2.5 wins above replacement. He's pretty solid over at the third base position. I'm struggling to put into words what I think this is. I could already see in the chat, I really would caution people thinking to themselves that, oh, well, the Cubs are going for it now. I don't think that's the case for this season. I don't believe that. My initial take is that the Cubs felt like Isaac Paredes makes them better right now and going forward. This team doesn't have the luxury. We've talked about it on the show. They have too many question marks heading into 2025. And I think this was a way that Jed Hoyer was able to answer one of those question marks. Christopher Morel was going to be a question mark heading into this year. Isaac Paredes is a guy that has a lot more of a proven success track record. So you go in knowing what you're getting with him and from him, and eliminating that question mark with Christopher Morel. Now, if you're a big analytics guy, if you're a guy that really likes to look under the hood, you have concerns about Isaac Paredes. The first thing that you look at is you say to yourself, man, his baseball savant numbers are dangerous. They don't look sustainable. But then again, Christopher Morel, like I said, is the exact opposite. And he's supposed to be better than he is right now. And he's not. So I think Jed went the production route this time instead of the expected route. I'll be genuinely honest with you. I did not think they'd give up on Christopher Morel this early. They put so much emphasis and so much hope in him. He was batting fourth the beginning of this season. He was playing third base, and now the Cubs have traded him. And it frustrates me in a sense that the Cubs went that far to gamble with him, because obviously if they're giving up on him now, their hopes for him were not as high as they made it seem. And I go back to this season and think about the now, and I just wish the Cubs didn't, put so much into Morel, because he's really a big reason why they're struggling. My initial thoughts on the trade, people are asking, do you think the Cubs got fleeced? It's hard to answer. The answer is no, but it all depends on Christopher Morel. If Christopher Morel turns into Kyle Schwarber with the Nationals and the Phillies, and Isaac Paredes is just an average player, then sure. But I think you have to look at this trade. My initial thoughts looking at this trade are not really about the pieces, but about the statement that it makes. And I think the statement that it makes is that, number one, Jed Hoyer is going to be in charge this offseason, or else he's not making a deal like this. This is a deal about 2025 and beyond. I think that Jed Hoyer is admitting that this team obviously has tons of holes, and they're looking for a more steady, more consistent bat. And so now we have a third baseman next year. That's checked off the list. Is it a superstar third baseman? No. But is it a guy that made the All-Star game? Yes. So it's a very complicated deal to evaluate. My biggest thing out of this live would be, I don't think this makes the Cubs buyers. They're currently losing 3-2 in Kansas City. They're 5.5 games out of a playoff spot. I think this is a move about feeling good going into 2025 and eliminating some holes. And I was talking about it with a lot of people the other day. Like, what do the Cubs do next year? Where are they really feeling great? You know what I mean? You're locked in at shortstop. You don't feel great about that. You're locked in at the corner outfielders. Those guys have produced, but you don't feel great about that. And now if you have Morel, he locks up a DH spot, potentially third base. So this gives him a lot more flexibility and a more steady guy. Let's dig in real briefly to Paredes' numbers here. Last year with Tampa, he was outstanding. He batted .250 with a .352 on base, .488 slug. He had an .840 OPS. So I think it's safe to say that he is somebody that's probably going to outperform his metrics, outperform the Baseball Savant page. He's somebody that in his big league career has a .772 OPS, and if you take away his first 2 years with Detroit as a Tampa Bay Ray, he's just been stellar with an OPS hovering around 800 in his career there. I'll be genuinely honest with you. I'm not overly familiar with his defense. I'm taking a look at it right now. He's played 77 games at third base. The numbers look decent over there. They look fine. We've talked about how Christopher Morel is really bad over there. But look, there's a lot. There's a lot here. I thought the Cubs were going to give Christopher Morel another 2 months to really prove himself, maybe elevate his trade deadline. This is the type of trade I would have expected the Cubs to make in the offseason, not at the trade deadline, because the Cubs have man on second, nobody out. How did that happen? Sorry, I got sidetracked. Oh, wow, Betancourt with a double. Somebody said the chat room's empty. No, we got 480 people here. I thought they would give Christopher Morel. This is a trade. If I had asked Jed about this trade, my initial question would be, why now, when both teams are not in a sell now, buy now situation? Why now? And I'm guessing, like Jeff Passan said, there was an opportunity to pounce. Both teams wanted to do this. I totally see this from the Rays' perspective. I mean, the Rays are going to, hey, we got a guy that has 40 home run potential. We got a reliever we really like. We don't have to pay either of them. Yay, yay, yay. But as far as the Cubs go, my initial conclusion is that the Cubs really want to steady that third base position, feel really good about it. Now, this way, they don't have to rush Matt Shaw up. They have a guy that could play there every day. He's a lefty masher. He's been pretty consistent the last 2 years. He made the All-Star team. And you have somebody that you could put in the middle of the lineup that's solid. It's another very nice player. We know that it's, not a star, but the Cubs have a lot of holes. They have a hole at third. They have holes at catcher. They have holes in the outfield if they trade Bellinger and PCA doesn't start to hit. And, they need to start filling them. And so maybe this was a step towards doing so. But I did not see it coming. I am really surprised. Isaac Paredes is a former Cub, so they know him really well. I'm thinking to myself just off the top of the dome with Paredes, he pulls everything. He's a pull hitter. Hopefully he could take advantage of those gaps at Wrigley Field. And he can go to left center because obviously down the lines, 353 is a country mile at Wrigley Field. But, hopefully it'll work out. I'm excited to see him the rest of this season. And, you just added another guy now that is going to be in your lineup in 2025 on a daily basis instead of having to worry about the situation with Christopher Morel. Obviously, every trade comes with tons of risks. This risk is easy. We know the risk. Christopher Morel has a tremendous amount of upside. He did not reach it with the Chicago Cubs in basically 3 years of playing, maybe 2+. I wonder if he can be an everyday player, but would I be absolutely shocked if Christopher Morel had 37 home runs in a Rays uniform and was what they want him to be? No, I wouldn't be. It's a dangerous trade for Jed. It is a trade that does scream out a little bit of desperation for 2025. Matt said to me on the phone, I thought he made a good point, that this feels like a trade that basically Jed Hoyer was told this team needs to get better in 2025. And so, it is dangerous. Am I nervous that Christopher Morel is going to be a star? I don't think a star, no. I'm a little bit nervous that he's going to be the guy we thought he was going to be and be a high home run guy and things like that. Yeah, a little bit, but it's a trade that I don't hate. I'm not a big analytics guy. I like the fact that the Cubs went out and got a guy that just produces, even though the analytics say that maybe he shouldn't be, and got rid of a guy that doesn't produce where the analytics and underlying numbers say that he should. There's so much more to discuss with this trade. My phone is blowing up. I know John Heyman said the Cubs are one of the teams in on Blake Snell. I'm not falling for the bait on this. I'm not falling for the Cubs being buyers. If they get Blake Snell, that would be surprising. Oh gosh, Patrick Wisdom 3-0 pop out. I watched this team and just could not imagine them being buyers this year, worrying about 2025. Hopefully, or worrying about 2024. Hopefully, all these deals help them in 2025, and we can see a lot more. I don't think the Cubs are done. I think they're going to be trading more players as we get closer to the deadline. And just a shocking deal. And a deal where I think Jed Hoyer really came out and kind of said, hey, this is what we're going to do. And, a lot of people think I'm afraid to make moves. Well, the question is, did he make this move because he thinks it's the right thing for the team, or did he make this move because he was told he needs to absolutely win in 2025 or his job's done? I don't know. But I'm rambling at this point. I'm also trying to watch the Cubs and see if they could tie this baseball game. But just a real shocker. And I can't wait to talk about this with Matt later on. Catch us at some point after the game where we dive way farther into it. But the Chicago Cubs have acquired Isaac Paredes, all-star third baseman from the Tampa Bay Rays, for Christopher Morel, Hunter Bigge, and a pitching prospect by the name of Ty Johnson. Trading with the Rays is dangerous. They're one of the best organizations in sports, but Jed felt strongly about this, and time will tell how this works out. But what a shocker. We'll see you probably in about a few hours, Matt and I, to talk about this even more. I just wanted to get something up because the iron is hot. Cubs currently trail 3-2 in the middle of the fifth against the Royals. They are 50-56. What a weird year, folks. See you soon.